sports as well. We are now joined by Tim Brando, Fox Sports, who has been, man, I mean, from the Hall of Fame last week, Tim, I saw you on that, to the Super Bowl was set, to the audio yesterday during CBS at halftime, I saw you. Let's start with that, because you've been in the business, and sometimes, you know, things happen technically. That was unbelievable what CBS had to deal with, but they just kept on plugging away.
Well, David, that's all you can do when you're in that situation. My heart goes out to JB and all the guys that were on that set, but particularly him, because he's the one that's trying to play traffic cop and elicit comments from the guys that are on the desk with him. And when you can't hear one another, it's hard to react. And not only could they not hear one another, none of us could hear anything because of the mix. I don't know. Has anything been written today by any of the media scribes about what the problem was? Did CBS ever address it? Because it could have been a myriad of different things that forced that problem upon them. I've been in similar situations, but not anything like that. That was cataclysmic. I mean, I don't know that that's ever happened, particularly at an NFL game when everything that's being produced is running in concert with the clock with the National Football League, as it would be for anything that we do at the SEC Championship. For years, I was doing an hour-long pregame show and halftime shows for all those years in Atlanta, and nothing like that ever happened to us. Did they ever address it?
No.
Did you see anything on it?
No, CBS I don't think has released anything. The only thing that I saw, Tim, was Boomer Esiason on his radio show just commenting on it, saying that they had no idea they were going to have those speakers behind him, and apparently he played along with it and didn't take it too seriously. But yeah, he was just kind of flummoxed like everybody else. Well,
that was if those speakers were there, and the technicians and stage managers and the producer of that halftime show were not informed, that's on the league. I mean, that's a problem. That's the league not communicating to the network. So, things happen. It's live TV, and gaffes will occur from time to time. But that certainly looked like an unforced error. And I think most people in television, most people that are in our business, were thinking, well, surely they had an understanding that there was going to be music being played, but where those amplifiers were set and where those speakers were going out to the entire stadium should not have been anywhere near, the location where they were broadcasting from. So it happens,
Hey, Tim,
I feel really badly for those guys though, because you gotta, you're there. You've only got a short time to give your thoughts, and then when no one can hear each other, that's a problem.
Tim, in a weird, perverse way, it made me feel good as someone in local broadcasting that we've had to do shows times where the college bands just show up on the scene and in the middle of our interview just start blaring, and you're like, well, I mean, what can you do? Like, you can't just run in the middle of 300 people and be like, you gotta move, go. I mean, you just got to deal with it.
Yeah, you don't expect that though with anything remotely connected to the National Football League. They're like a well-oiled machine when it comes to their halftime shows and just game management in general. And those kinds of the memos that pass through producers' emails in the weeks that lead up to any broadcast are incredible. And then for championship game environments, even more so. That would be true at any major event. And I've been in their situations, but I've never had to deal with that to the extent to which they did. So it was surprising, no question.
Tim, how amazing is this Joe Burrow kid, huh? I mean, Jamar Chase, Jamar Chase, I think, has to be mentioned as well, the LSU duo. But this Burrow story is pretty unbelievable.
He is a cool hand Luke, and I don't think there's any doubt that if you're looking for the next the next big thing in quarterbacking, that's probably considered more throw first and run second, he's that guy. A combination of Brady and Manning, perhaps, but probably more mobile than both. I mean, Joe, was a big factor running the football in the LSU offense when they won the national title, much more so than probably people realize. But by comparison to Josh Allen, not nearly as mobile. Okay, and I thought Cincinnati would beat. I thought they would win the game, and I thought they would win it, with relative ease against Kansas City because the Chiefs were coming off such an incredible game that the high from winning a game like that and having to do all that they did in the fourth quarter you look for an emotional letdown, but they were anything but that in the first half. I mean, it was just the opposite. Kansas City was blowing Cincinnati's doors off, and they needed to make major adjustments in their defense, and they did in the second half, shockingly so. And Burrow did just enough with very little offensive line help to keep them in the game, to keep them within contact. And then after the defense started making stops, now, offensively, they really began to make plays. I'll tell you, fellas, if Cincinnati wins it all, and I think they will, I think they're going to beat the Rams. That'll be with the worst offensive line to win a Super Bowl maybe in the modern era of the NFL. That line is just not very good, and he's doing it despite them.
Yeah, I thought I heard either Nance or someone mention that it may have been a post-game show or one of those that he's been sacked more than any quarterback ever to get to a Super Bowl. Ever.
Yeah. And so much so that he got hurt, obviously last year, and didn't get to play. Only won 2 games as a starter. They only won 4, period, but they were able to, get through the season and then have him have enough time to get healthy to start the year. I don't think we can disregard the jobs done by Mixon, in the backfield as well. And T. Higgins, who's been a great, third, there's that saying in the NFL, you're only as good as your third option. And they've certainly seemingly found that in a second and a third option to Jamar Chase. But Joe Burrow has great in the pocket, and his ability to elude at least the first 1 or 2 guys to get to him to keep a play alive is just off the charts. I mean, it's incredible. And he's just got one of those heartbeats that's a lot slower than everybody else at his age.
Yeah.
I mean, he really does. And you know that from the moment you meet him. And Spencer Tillman and I were on hand when he won the Lombardi right after LSU had won the national championship. And you would not meet a better young man than that. And he had just, of course, come off the Heisman a week earlier, maybe 10 days earlier. And, he was as grateful and as humble, but at the same time, confident. That fine line between superior confidence and arrogance. I mean, he walks that as well as any young quarterback I think I've ever seen.
Tim, I watched this and I thought about this when we were, we knew we were going to have you on the show today. It kind of constantly happens to me when I think about college football. Why doesn't college football just take something that works and reformat it to fit what they do? The NFL the last month has been fantastic. Everything about it is a ratings winner all the time, yet college football seems so determined to do their own thing, even despite of knowing what works.
Yeah. I mean, if you were to take the top for all those people, and it's amazing, isn't it, how many people consistently, the only people that shout down the notion of having a 12-team format for the college football playoff are those that are consistently saying, well, we're just going to have more blowouts. How the hell do you know? How in the hell? Who anointed you Nostradamus that every game is going to? No, you're not. You're going to get better quality football. When teams are playing games that matter to advance to another round of the playoffs, it only enables them to become better at their craft because so much more is on the line. And I'm going to tell you, take, for instance, a team like Pittsburgh with a quarterback like Kenny Pickett, who's going to be the number 1 quarterback taken in this upcoming draft. I mean, Pitt, under any other circumstances, going to a New Year's Six Bowl after what they've been through would have been off the charts, incredibly pumped up, ready to go, and they would have been in the top 12. I mean, they would have been in the mix. But you put them in a game without anything at stake, and the quarterback leaves, doesn't participate in their New Year's Six game. Well, they're a shell of their former selves. Who the hell's going to watch that? Who wants to sponsor that? So, I mean, if you can't look at this and not see the light, and I'm speaking more really here to the, I mean, just absolute short-sighted elitist fans of the 4 or 5 pure playoff privileged teams out there that don't want any change to take place. My God, do you not like football? Because all you're going to get is a lot more and a lot better football by going to a 12-team format. And you don't surrender the entire month of December to the NFL.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, and I've seen you on that before. You're just giving up days that otherwise would have eyeballs that would watch whatever. I saw college basketball. Kentucky throttled Kansas. Alabama, who's bipolar with what they do in basketball, what they did to Baylor, and then obviously the others. But the Providence game, Purdue, and that game ending, it was a remarkable weekend for college basketball.
It really was. It really was, and it always delivers. And again, it's a shame that so many helmet heads won't look at college basketball until the Super Bowl is over. And they're missing out because these teams are evolving into the teams they're going to be watching in March, and they're all going to be asking the same stupid questions they all ask when the tournament pairings come out, and they're missing out on who's doing what and how they're evolving. Purdue had the game salted away. Had a 16-point lead, and Ohio State kept chipping away. E.J. Liddell started making shots, and the next thing you know, they're stealing an inbounds pass and tying the thing up. And Purdue has one chance to win it at the end, and you could argue that it was a questionable shot, but Ivy is so good at hitting game winners, and he does it again with really no time remaining, a buzzer beater to give Purdue the win, and they'll probably be top 4 this week. I've got them this coming Saturday at home against Michigan, a game the Wolverines really need to win. That's a game you'll see on Fox at 2:30 Central, 3:30 Eastern time. I'm looking forward to that one. Michigan's 500 in the Big Ten, and they did get a win at Indiana right after Indiana beat Purdue a little over a week ago. And Juwan's team got buried at East Lansing, so they need to get some quad 1 wins. It'll be interesting to see. As of your point about Alabama, Quinterly is a kid that their point guard is a kid that transferred from Villanova because he couldn't get enough playing time, and he was a 5-star talent coming out of high school. And, he played like it in the game against Baylor after they had lost to Georgia, who's been awful this year in the SEC. So, yeah, it's going to happen, but I guarantee you when the lights go up and it's a big game, and it was the SEC Big 12 Challenge, which I think is amongst regular season weekends, probably one of the more prized weekends of college basketball, particularly in the Midwest and the flyover states and in the Rust Belt of the South. It was important to those guys, and they played like it. The modern-day internet athlete, whether he's football or basketball, they want to play in games that matter. And those games this past weekend mattered. And I would argue that while some people say, well, I don't really pay attention until the tournament, I would say, well, then you're missing the hell out. You're missing a lot because these teams, become who they are in March, in the latter stages of January and all of February.
Tim, last year, if you asked most college basketball pundits and people around the country who's going to be playing on the first Monday in April, they would have been like Gonzaga and Baylor. And if you asked them a month later, they say Gonzaga and Baylor. This year, I think if you ask people, I don't think you'd get the same answer from any two people. This college basketball season is as wide open as one we've maybe ever seen.
Yeah, you're right. And I think, I saw Kentucky a little over a month ago at LSU when they dedicated Dale Brown Court. So that was actually a little less than a month ago. It was January the 4th. And they were not the same team that played at Kansas the other day. Now LSU was at full strength, and they haven't been really since that game. Xavier Pinson was out for the game with TCU. He's their best point guard. He's a guy that can really run an offense. LSU is now, they're an athletic team without real basketball skill sets when they don't have Xavier Pinson. And Days, who's their best inside player, had also been out. He just got back for the TCU game. But Kentucky with Shibwe and those guards, they really took it to Kansas, would not allow them to get anything accomplished on the offensive glass. And you could see the athletic prowess that Kentucky had. All these teams, when they're getting players and losing players, either through injury, COVID protocols, or whatever else might happen, it impacts them. You lose one or two guys, no matter how good you might be, and it's questionable as to whether you're really worthy of the numeral that's next to your name. I think Purdue is the most complete team I've seen, but even they don't have a prolific, pure point guard. Like if you took, for instance, Colin Gillespie of Villanova, who I think is the best pure point guard and leader of a team in college basketball this year. If you put him with Purdue, I don't know that they could lose. Edey is a monster. He's like 7'4", runs the floor like he's 6'7". You've got Travion Williams, who's now coming off the bench, who is just a big-time talent, an all Big Ten Player of the Year preseason candidate. And then you've got all these great guards and Stefanovic who can shoot the lights out from deep. But they don't have a guy that you can give the ball to and say, okay, make sure that we protect the ball and that we handle pressure late in games. Ohio State proved that the other day. Same thing with Baylor. You saw what happened. They were not with, they didn't have Pryor, their best scorer, and you saw the difference in them, right? I mean, against Alabama. So every team in college basketball is susceptible. Everyone's got some small wart, okay? Meaning no one, not even Gonzaga, is without, flaws. And Auburn is another team that I think falls into this category now. They've got a big 7-footer, the transfer, Kessler, that can make a big difference in the way, teams attack the 10 against Auburn. And they certainly run the floor well for Bruce Pearl. But what if they're not making shots? What if they need to protect the ball and get a good look against the team that's forcing them to play half court? I think they're susceptible. I think there's vulnerabilities there. So, yeah, it's going to be just an amazing NCAA tournament, and I for one can't wait for the dog days of February that I'm about to jump into. I've got games, like I said, Michigan and Purdue this Saturday, come back the following Tuesday with Villanova at St. John's. I get Providence, who's playing out of their minds at Villanova a little bit later in February. That game might be for the regular season championship of the Big East, certainly seeding in that conference tournament. It's going to be a blast. And I think the Big 12, the Big East, and the SEC, those three leagues, and the Pac-12's top-heavy, okay? They've got Oregon's really good, so is SC, so is UCLA, but there's a drop-off after that. I see the three best leagues with multiple teams, upwards of 7-8 teams getting in. The Big 10, the Big 12, the Big East, and the SEC are they're all loaded. I mean, it's hard to determine. The only difference would be there are fewer teams in the Big East, so they won't get as many teams in the tournament maybe as the other three. But my goodness, those are great leagues with a lot of good teams. I mean, a lot of good teams. A lot.
Tim, before we let you go, you've talked about Michigan hoops a little bit. I'm curious your thoughts on Jim Harbaugh, another flirtation with the NFL, talking with the Vikings. I saw, Dolphins fans want them to pursue him as well. But your thoughts on Harbaugh and Michigan?
Well, I don't understand why you're going to run Zimmer when you've got a team returning. It's not bad. They've got Dalvin Cook as a runner. They've got, I would say, a better-than-average starting quarterback in Cousins. I like their receiving core. I don't think it's not superstar laden. They may need one more big-time threat, deep threat in their receiving core. But I don't know that you necessarily have to run Zimmer to get Harbaugh. If that's the only place that's really interested, to me, if I'm Jim, I'm thinking, well, all right, if I'm going to throw myself back into this, then I must not believe that what I accomplished this year is sustainable. You know, Michigan had a hell of a year, and I think a lot of people are saying he's definitely going to go out because he beat Ohio State. That's what the Michiganders wanted. He got them into the playoff. That's a good thing. Now they got embarrassed in the playoff. So if he just leaves, I don't know that that's – I mean, I know that they're happy with him and he's one of their own, and he could, some say, go out riding hot. If he wants to coach so badly in the NFL, the Vikings would be a great place to land. I mean, it would. I just don't understand why Minnesota would be that enamored with him. The Raiders weren't. There was talk about the Raiders being the team that might procure him, and all reports out of there is that's just not going to happen. Maybe it's a money thing. Maybe he feels like he can't get out of Michigan what he can get out of the NFL. He wants to make another big strike, and he has to go to the league to do that. Look, I'm a bit biased here. I want to see Jim Harbaugh stay in the Big Ten. I want to see Michigan continue to be relevant, and battling Ohio State. But I think there's a push by some in the media to get him out and back into the NFL, and I don't quite get why Minnesota would be so enamored with Jim Harbaugh.
I know you have something else to get to, but I saw your back and forth, the debate about the Baseball Hall of Fame, Clemens, Bonds, whatever, and we don't have time for you to get into it, but who's the commissioner who oversaw baseball during that time?
Oh my God! Well, it was the one and only Bud Selig,
and he's in the Hall of Fame, right?
He's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. That was the best of all the arguments, and I've said that before. Baseball looked the other way, like you're getting you're physical, like turn right and cough, and they did, and then they want to do what they do now.
I got to tell you, I was vilified in the time in the early 2000s when the home run chase was going on between Sosa and McGuire and Bonds and during that entire era. And I absolutely shredded Major League Baseball. And at that time, I actually had some producers that were out of Chicago with Sporting News Radio, and they were all Cubs fans, and they just were like in my ear like you wouldn't believe it. I'm like, I don't care what you guys think, whether you're Southsiders or you're Cubby fans. It's a joke. It's a crock. And you guys are as much a part of the problem as the players are. Okay. Of course, I didn't win too many friends or influence my producers when I said that, but I really felt it. I had left calling Major League games in '96 with the Braves. The steroid era was well underway at that point in time. I had been to batting practices and had seen the colossal jerks that were, superstars of the MLB at that time. Barry Bonds at the very top of that heap. I covered college baseball when he played for Jim Brock at Arizona State. Barry Bonds did not have to take PEDs to be a Hall of Famer. I mean, he was a Hall of Famer even before he got on those. No question in my mind. But he did it, and he almost did it with a smug sneer saying, say whatever you want. I'm doing it. They don't mind, and that's that. The ESPN even sent the late Pedro Gomez to go follow him. Can you imagine that being your job, having to follow Barry Bonds every day of the summer? I mean, my God, what a sickening job to have in media. Because the guy was a jerk, absolute jerk. And but yet, all of the Hall of Fame media, Peter Gammons and many, many others, were complicit with this. Wouldn't say a word about it. And now all of a sudden, we're years removed from it. The game has done as much as it can to clean it all up after the embarrassment at Capitol Hill when Roger Clemens misremembered and Rafael Palmeiro lied. Now all of a sudden, we're supposed to just forget about all of that. Okay, we all have amnesia from it, and we're supposed to put him in. I thought at that time, no way, no how should any of these guys get in. But Selig was the commissioner at that time. He's been removed for a long time. He's now in Cooperstown.
Yep.
So if he's in, how the hell can you justify not allowing Bonds in, not allowing Sosa in, not allowing Clemens in, not allowing Palmeiro in? So it's just a huge blemish for the entire sport and for many respected journalists, all members of the Baseball Writers Association, and their hypocrisy. It's an absolute hypocrisy. And sadly, I think it's another bad skin on the wall for sports mirroring society. You know, we have hypocrisy all around us, and we don't need it in sports. The one thing about sports that we could always hang our hat on was that no matter where you came from, no matter your ethnicity, no matter the makeup of your cultural background, you can excel between the white lines. but the way we treat these players, you know, I think of all the guys that played during that period when juicing was taking place and their careers were cut short because they didn't. Okay, a guy like Todd Walker from my hometown played 10 years in the big leagues, great hitter, played for the Cubs, played for the Red Sox, played for the Twins. Todd was a Golden Spikes Award winner at LSU with Skip Bertman in the early 90s. Todd probably could have played 10, 12 more years if he had juiced. He chose not to. And there are a lot of other guys like that fall into that category. So I think it's a real shame. I do. Hey, before I go, fellas, I do want to mention this because I think you're going to have Moose Johnston on next.
Yes, sir.
I am so stoked that the USFL is coming back. And I don't know that I'll be involved. I probably won't be involved with it. But I am so stoked it's returning. Back in 1985, my first year on national television at ESPN, I got to call Herschel Walker's record-breaking touchdown run to break Eric Dickerson's single-season rushing record at that time. And it was one of the golden moments of a young career for me. I was only 29 back then. And I just think the business model, everything that the guys have done at Fox to make this a reality, I think it's going to be a huge success this spring. I really do. And I wanted to say that before you guys got Moose on.
Yeah, we had a graphic up early. It was my fault about his role. He's the executive vice president of football operations. He is next. We'll tell him you said hello. And I look forward. Yeah, I will. And Tim, thank you as always for the truth serum and how you say it as well. Thanks for your time.
Okay, fellas. Thanks again. Anytime. You know that.
Tim Brando, Fox Sports broadcaster on many things. And I say this about him, and I put this up just now on Twitter. You may not agree or you may disagree on occasion with one of his opinions. We don't agree on everything, but he says it emphatically, and he also says it with conviction, and we appreciate him jumping on with us on average really about once a month on many things sports. Including his background and knowledge about what Joe Burrow was like, of course, at LSU as well. We'll have Daryl Johnston here in a moment.